the 89th Masters, one of the best that we've seen in quite some time. What a historic weekend. Rory McIlroy takes home the green jacket for the first time in his illustrious golfing career, completes the Grand Slam as well, the career Grand Slam, as he takes home the 89th Masters. How's it going, everybody? A new edition of On the Green with myself, Will Tallant, joined by Jack Warner and Tucker Austin. This is going to be a big Masters Rory McIlroy triumphant episode here for you on the green. And guys, this was emotional in a lot of respects, especially if you follow the sport of golf. And I think for the three of us, seeing Rory McIlroy in the limelight for such a long time and then becoming this guy known to not seal the deal, wins the first three big ones in the majors that you need for the Grand Slam very early on. I want to say it was from 2011 to 2014. He won the Open, the US Open, and the PGA Championship. And he won the US Open twice. I actually have that wrong. He won the PGA Championship twice. And then 11 years later, he finally completes that career Grand Slam. But just seeing him and Tiger Woods in commercials, the comparisons that they had with one another, specifically with how they swung the irons, and Rory never sealing the deal, finally getting his green jacket. Tucker, Jack, start with you, Tucker. What were the thoughts, the initial thoughts? How you feeling now? And how great for the sport of golf is it that Rory McIlroy is on that pedestal now?
Well, initial reaction, like watching that putt finally drop. First of all, watching a miss on 18, it was like classic Rory. I was like, here we go again. But he comes out in the playoff against Justin Rose. He puts a great approach shot in, puts it right next to the hole, and just taps it in. And I can't lie, that was one of the rawest displays of emotion I have ever seen in the world of sports, like across every sport. Like just watching him like collapse on the green and like screaming into the green at like it was something else. I think I joined a lot of golf fans or I joined a lot of golf fans that afternoon. I teared up a bit at Rory, man. There's really, if you're a fan of golf, there's no way you didn't feel it's just some kind of a relief for Rory. I mean, his 11th attempt at completing the Grand Slam. He's, I believe, the fifth or sixth golfer ever to do it now, and it's just in terms for the game of golf in general, I think this just completely validates Rory now. He's had so many haters and so many guys who think that he's really arrogant or like wonder why he's been so outspoken in terms of the PGA versus live debate. But now that he has a career Grand Slam and he's got a green jacket, I think all most of those doubters they go away now because now he's shown us what I mean, we knew he was kind of made of this whole time, but now he finally got to show the world of golf what he's made of, and I'm still happy about it. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm still happy about it.
No, I completely agree with Tucker. And the other thing is the first word that came to mind for me when he won it was nostalgia. And it's because a very common talking point that has been, referenced since he won the Masters last week is it being the best Masters since Tiger's in 2019. Because it's one of those Tiger had obviously already won, but it was the he's back feeling. It was that he's been out of it for so long. We haven't seen him reach the heights in his career that he himself has aspired to or hasn't made the comeback that it's so clear that he's wanted to make. So for him to finally overcome what has been an over decade long wait for him to finally get his first green jacket, it just screamed nostalgia for me, especially me personally. That's probably the most I've celebrated a Masters win. I'm right there with Tucker. I thought back immediately to being in middle school. It reminded me how long Rory has been in this game, and he's only 35 years old. He came up so young and came onto the scene so young and saw such early success. I still think back to middle school when The one thing I asked for Christmas was a Nike Vapor 3-wood, the black with the green swoosh on it, and it was because of Rory. I remember trying it out at Carl's Golf Land. I was like, this is the one I want. My dad and I playing Rory McIlroy PGA Tour. It was the first golf video game that came out after the Tiger Woods series kind of discontinued there for a bit. Um, he's been in this for a while, and I think the other thing that's so remarkable about this is it does show you how difficult early success is, because you look at how insane and how quick of an impact he made with how young he entered the PGA Tour and how much early success he saw. And then he goes on this long drought where, as you mentioned, he kind of develops this narrative that he can't finish the job, that he can't show up when the lights are the brightest. Even though when you look at his resume, this guy was already looked at as one of the greatest golfers of the generation, and he still finally checked this box off the list. I think the perseverance that he showed during the round, which I know we'll get into plenty, it really did take everything in him, which I think makes it all the more sweeter. I think the fact that this wasn't some blowout win where he made everyone else, this was Rory's Masters this year. Like, it didn't feel that way. It really didn't. It required him. He had a quiet first round where he shoots even par. Then he has a pair of unbelievable 6 under rounds where you're like, could he get it done this year? Could he get it done this year? And even still, again, that narrative about him not being able to finish the job kind of carried into Sunday. You see it on Twitter. People I know that are into sports betting and all that kind of stuff about, ooh, I know what Rory has been known to do over the last, however many years. Do I fade Rory on Sunday? What do I do? And even Sunday, not his prettiest round. I know we'll get into it. He has, there were multiple points throughout that round where he had putts and he had opportunities to really make it a lock, and he didn't, and it ended up going to a playoff hole. It shows just how much of a competitor he is. It shows how long he's worked at this, and it just shows a legend of the game getting his flowers finally. And honestly, I think it's a celebratory. I'm sure there's people that we're rooting for other golfers, but as Tucker mentioned, and I think he hit the nail right on the head, as a golf fan, it's good for the sport. It's good to see your GOATs, your legends, your icons, whatever you want to refer to him as. It is good to see them be great and reach that the top of that mountain, because that's a super special thing for him to accomplish. It's a testament to how long he's been in this game and how he's never given up on himself. Hearing his speeches after he won the Masters and hearing the relief in his voice, but also the gratitude for his support systems and his family. Like, it's clear that this has been a long road for him, and he finally got the job done. I'm sure he would have liked to have got it done sooner, but I think it makes it all the more sweeter that after all the work he's put in, he finally puts on that green jacket and he finally gets to pick what the rest of the Masters winners will have for dinner next year when they play the tournament.
Jim Nantz also had an awesome call. I
Oh,
thought it
yes.
was very fitting for a lot of what you both just said, with the trials and the tribulations that Rory McIlroy has gone through as a professional golfer. All of the hype at the top of the sport 10 years ago, and then completely just really being humbling himself too. And we were talking before we hopped on too, Jack. I think a lot of it was a mental thing. There were
Oh, for
many,
sure.
many different occasions in which Rory McIlroy, we could be sitting here right now, and this could have been a seventh or an eighth major that he's won. He could have been there, but he wasn't. And that's just, I think that's part of the beauty of golf, though. And Rory McIlroy has finally lived up to it. He is a career Grand Slam winner, just the sixth all time of the tour. Unbelievable stuff. Like I said to open the show, it was emotional. And when I saw him hit that last putt, I was like, wow. Looking back to when Bryson DeChambeau beats him in the U.S. Open a couple years ago, excuse me, because Rory misses the 3-footer. And I know that putt had a little bit of sharp break towards the end. It looked like kind of a gimme, but they're never just straight up gimmies like that, as we saw. And time after time, and Rory finally comes through. And he did it in Rory fashion. That round 4, that back 9 was ugly. It was
It
really,
was.
really ugly. And there probably wouldn't have been a playoff, but Rory brought it to a playoff and seals the deal. And talking about that playoff, we'll get into Justin Rose and a little bit more of the full field, but want to harp back on what you said, Tucker. That approach shot in the playoff, that was to me the Phil Mickelson shot that we saw 10, 12 years ago, whatever it was. Mickelson's in the trees. A crowd has to disperse to give him a lane to make this shot, and he sticks it right by the flagstick. That may have been a Masters, if I remember correctly. I don't remember exactly what it was, but an unbelievable shot to me. The Rory approach shot was exactly that. It was that kind of memory. Watching it live, I sat back in my chair and I was like, oh my God, that was an unbelievable shot. After having an unsuccessful attempt at it the day before in a couple approach shots leading up to the playoff, Rory didn't quite have it. And then Justin Rose putting it 15 feet away for a birdie putt. Now, it was no easy birdie putt by any means, but 15 feet is 15 feet is a whole lot better than what Rory was sitting at. And they had just about the same yardage wise in terms of an approach shot. And Rory one-upped him, and he hits the backboard on that green, and he gets the backspin, and it spins all the way around to just about 3 feet out, whatever it was, to give Rory his Masters. But let's talk about that shot for just a second, because to me, Tucker, that shot is going to go down as one of my favorite shots and one of the more memorable shots in tour history. And it's up there with a lot of the shots that I think come to mind when we all think of memorable shots.
Let's just say there's going to be plenty of edits of that approach and then Rory knocking the ball into the hole. I've already seen probably 150 of them. Uh, but yeah, you mentioned he had some struggles on the second nine on Sunday, and even more so on 18 proper during regulation play. He put that approach shot in the bunker. So it's all the pressure coming into the playoff hole. You have an like pretty similar, not identical, but pretty similar approach shot, and he definitely didn't put it in the bunker the second time. Like he made the adjustment, and he absolutely nailed that shot and gave himself the best opportunity, put all the pressure over onto Justin Rose to try and knock down that 15-footer. And like you said, a 15-footer at Augusta is not a gimme whatsoever. So Justin Rose misses the putt under pressure. Rory knocks down the 3-footer nice and easy because he took all of the pressure off of himself with that approach shot. I 100% agree. This is going to go down as one of the more, if not one of the most iconic shots in the history of the Masters and the history of PGA. And that's partially because of the guy who hit it. Like the fact that it was Rory McIlroy. It was Rory in a round where he was struggling, in a round where he shot over par on Sunday at the Masters and still pulled it out to win. Like Jack, you already said, it was Rory fashion. Definitely was. If there was one that he was going to win, it would be down to the wire and almost throwing it away. But I also wanted to touch on the fact that he's just gone through so much adversity. Like it wasn't just losing golf. It wasn't just losing golf tournaments this whole 11 years waiting to win the Masters. He he took steps away from the game of golf after the U.S. Open last year, after he lost to DeChambeau, missing that putt. We may never know how close we were, but we could have been really close to losing Rory McIlroy for the rest of his career. He could have hung him up right there, but he comes back and he winds up getting divorced. Like things aren't like going well at home. He's trying to get back on the golf course again, and it all just culminates in him coming to Augusta this year and finally reaching the mountaintop. It's so perfect. The script could not have been better. And it's I mean we already mentioned it, but it's just so huge for the game of golf. But yeah, that shot just as big as Rory winning the tournament. That approach on the playoff hole just and then we probably have to talk about his shot. I think it was on 15.
I was just about to say that.
Crazy. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah.
he pulled out the shots that he needed when it mattered.
The second
And
shot on 15, right?
yeah, it was I
That it
believe
was
it
his
was the
approach
second
shot. It was his shot to the green. He set himself up for eagle on 15, and he actually misses the eagle putt, which was obviously again, there's not an easy putt at Augusta. That the greens are insane. It's like putting on glass. The breaks are unbelievable. It's only for the most excellent golfers. in the world, and even the most excellent golfers in the world struggle with it. But what I think, we're focusing in on the playoff hole, which, by the way, again, this is, getting my 2 cents. Unbelievable shot. I mean, it was him in his rawest form, in his element. He did what he needed to. Like Tucker said, he made the shots that he needed to make when the time came that he needed to make them. What I will say about that performance in round four, that is some of the best short game I have ever seen in a do or die, winner take all match in the Masters. You talk about, some of the struggles that he encountered. I understand he had a rough hole 13 where he puts one in the water, and you there are ways in which you're like, oh no, he's kind of giving this away. But you look at that shot on 15 that Tucker just, mentioned, and I was going to get into, that he wraps it around a tree and is able to get himself in prime territory to land an eagle putt. And he doesn't make it, but he does get the birdie, a much needed birdie at that point in the round. He was locked in when it was, tee to fairway, fairway to green. When he needed to make those shots and set himself up to be in the best position that he could, he was ready for it, and he stepped up. Will, you and I talked about it right before we got on the show, and you mentioned it. It was clear to me that there were still some mental butterflies. And I think where you saw it the most was when he was putting. Obviously missing some key putts at times where, again, I have to give him credit. Augusta greens are insane. We all know that. We can throw that out there. But there were some huge putts down the stretch that he misses where maybe the putting wavered here and there. The short game didn't waver. Those approach shots didn't waver. He was locked in and was ready to give himself the best opportunity that he could. And you could even see the difference, and you could see his confidence sort of build up. I know one of the things people had a lot of commentary on is the way he would step into his shots, where you could tell based on coming out of the shot whether or not he liked where it was going, because he'll walk into it. He'll kind of finish his swing and then he'll kind of step into it and be like, oh, that's the one. That's the one. He even had a shot in the round, I forget which hole it was on, where he dropped his club in the backswing, thinking that it was going to be a bad shot,
such a
and then it
funny
ends up
moment.
being
Oh my goodness.
a phenomenal approach shot. So you could sort of see the mental hurdles that he's going through in this round. And I said it to you, Will, when he's missing some of those putts down the stretch that really could have put this away, you could tell that this was still a mentally strenuous round for him. You could tell that the narratives might have been in his head. You could tell that he understood the severity of the situation, that this is another round, this is yet another major where he has a chance to do something remarkable, and it's going to come down to a stroke or two. It's going to be close. Every putt is going to matter. But it was crazy to me to see the excellence that he displayed getting to greens, setting himself up for putts that are, I guess, more preferable locations on Augusta greens than being further away from the cup and some of the other approach shots that you saw. And sometimes he still wasn't able to ring it home. And those putts didn't break him down because he still was able to display this short game that, as I said, is one of the best performances I've ever seen with the match on the line, with a legacy on the line. So it was so much more fascinating to watch this round. And I could almost, and I'm sure I can speak for plenty of other people as well. I could almost feel his nerves. And I'm this schmuck watching from college on the couch who, it was the greatest day of my life when I broke 100 one time at a public course in Florida. That was the best day of my life. And I'm sitting here and I can feel those raw emotions where I'm like, wow, like he is really battling with not only the entire field of golfers that are chomping right at the bit. This is a close round. He's battling with himself too. And he won that battle. He won the battle against the field and he won the battle against himself as well. It was truly remarkable.
That putt game that you mentioned, Jack, too, courtesy of the Masters app, which shout out the Masters app. It's an incredible app.
Really
It
cool.
really is. It's like, to me, the March Madness app. You only use
Mhm.
it for the Masters, you only use it for 4 days. For March Madness, you use it for like 2, 3 weeks. But it's so well done. Looking at Rory's putting statistics, day three, easily his best round of putting, averages 1.3 putts per green. Everything else is 1.5 and higher. So to me, that's signaling you're throwing in some two putts, maybe a three putt here and there. But the putting, definitely something for Rory that, as you're alluding to, Jack, there were times where it looked good, but still there were some mental spots where he didn't necessarily close the deal out. Now there's some other shots too, where that led to a
Double
higher
bogeyed the first
score.
hole.
Yeah,
You want to talk
Yeah,
about
that's a hot
we were
start
joking
to
about
a
we're
round.
joking about Rory
Mhm.
fashion and he won in Rory fashion. I don't think when I finally sat, I don't think I got watching the final round until I think about the third or fourth hole. I was finishing up an assignment. And so I look on my phone right after 2 o'clock when they start, and I see right away Rory double bogey. I'm like, oh my God, no, it's gonna happen again. Like it's going to happen again. Like you guys said, and it's funny that we're referring to it that way. It was in Rory fashion. He put himself in some holes and he had to work out of them.
Let me run some numbers by you guys real quick. So round four, ironically, easily his worst of the 4 days.
A hundred percent.
It was easily the worst
Over
of his
par.
4 days. Round two, he had some lapses, but he was so dominant in some other areas of the game that it made up for it. So, starting with green hits, his worst day, round four, 56% green hits. Overall, he had 65%, but 56% green hits in round four. Everything else was over 60% the first 3 days. Fairway hits, round two, he's at 50%. That's his worst. But in round two for green hits, he had 78%. So this is where I'm saying he made up for some things. In round four, fairway hits 57%. Very low still. That every round one and three over 70%, round four 57. Driving distance, round four was actually his longest day, 342. Average was 300 amongst the field. Sand saves, he didn't have any in round four, just in round one. Putting, his worst um, putts per hole ratio, he averaged 1.6 on round four. His longest drive came in round four at 352. So obviously the drives were where he succeeded, but all these other statistics that I'm pointing out, I mean, they're glaring. You look at his Masters app page, he really did not play well in that on that round four and was saved miraculously. He gets a birdie on 17, but then he bogeys 18 and he makes the playoff 19 look spectacular. But that 13, that par five, he double bogeys it. So there were some shots, man. Rory was really making you hold on to the edge of your seat, especially on that back nine in round four.
Yeah, has a Masters winner ever doubled two holes in the final round?
It's a good question. We gotta look that up, man. That
Yeah, I mean, it was real, like, especially he had a two-shot lead coming into the final round on Sunday, and then he doubles the first hole to go back to tied with Bryson. And it's like a complete it's cardiac Rory McIlroy at this point. Like he just made it so much more interesting by dropping back down. And then he comes out with a makes par on the par five second. Meanwhile, this is after Rory was the first golfer in Masters history to put in a three on his card for the first six holes of a round. So like, and that wasn't round four,
loves it.
obviously. It was round three. Yeah. So that round three, he puts in six straight threes, and then he comes out in round four, double bogeys the first, and pars the whole two par five. Like just a complete 180 between Saturday and Sunday. But we talked about it a little bit before the show. You look at his round two and his round three, he goes back to back 66s. And he did his job on moving day on Saturday. He put himself in position to win the tournament because he was two shots ahead of Bryson. They wound up in the final pairing together. And he doesn't play great on Sunday. But I'll go back to what I said before. He made the shots when they counted and when he really, really needed them to still keep him in that position to win. Because I mean, the like round four was tough on it wasn't tough on everybody as much as it was on Rory. But I mean, the names that were around Rory at the start of the day on Sunday were not the same as the names that were around him at the end of the day. You look at guys like Bryson DeChambeau, he was in the final pairing with Rory and wound up tied for fifth at 7 under. Ludwig Oberg spent most of Sunday in third place and then finished alone in seventh at 6 under. So really, I think the middle two rounds for Rory, um, I mean, they are what gave him the opportunity to win on Sunday, and then Sunday was kind of it's sort of its own beast for Rory because he comes in with all the nerves around the greens, but he's also amped up on that adrenaline, driving the ball further than he has all weekend. So it was a whole lot of emotions that he had to try and keep really bottled up. I don't know how he doesn't kind of lose it a little bit after putting the ball in the water on 13. He does bogey the next hole, but he comes back on 15 with a birdie, comes out on 17 with a birdie, and puts himself back in position to get after Justin Rose. So yeah, it's the middle rounds for Rory in this one. Back-to-back 66s were really, really hot performances. He put up two eagles, I believe, in that second round. And then obviously the parade of three, or no, it's two eagles in round three. So round three was a golden day. Two eagles and a parade of threes for the first six holes.
Let's talk
And
about
it's
Justin
those.
Rose
Oh,
there
sorry.
too, because Justin Rose had an incredible Masters. I mean, he was really, really dominant. Green hits, he blows the field out of the water. 76% on green hits. The field was 62%. For round 3 and 4, Justin Rose, 89% in round 3, 83% in green hits. Unbelievable stuff. 86%, 86%, 71% in fairway hits for Justin Rose between rounds 2 to 4. He's 77% overall. Doesn't give you a ton with the stick out of the box. He's like 290 to 310 on average. His best was 310. Sand saves 50% on round 2 and round 4. What didn't see a lot of trouble there. His putting, though, his putting was nails in round 1. Every day following, 1.5 or over 2 putts per hole for Justin Rose. That definitely does not help. 311 yards was his longest drive. But overall, Justin Rose, an incredible Masters. And once again, for the third time in his career, he's 44 years old. He turned pro in 1998. He finishes second in the Masters. First time in 2015, second time in 2017, and now the third time in 2025. And this is probably one of his best tournaments that he's ever played.
It absolutely is, but it does kind of show you. Tucker mentioned how Rory kind of won this thing in the middle rounds. Rose kind of lost this in the middle rounds because he comes out the gate 7 under, an unbelievable opening round, and then he starts to slow down. Now it's crazy to me how competitive a golf tournament must be that I'm saying that he's cooling off by shooting 1 under at Augusta. But round 2, he only shoots 1 under. And when he maintains the overall lead, he's at 8 under coming out of round 2. Round 3, he goes 3 over. And you kind of take a look at that. That means those middle 2 rounds, you put them together, cross 36 holes, he goes 2 over. Rory went 12 under. So he beat Rose by 12 strokes in the middle rounds. And that's kind of where things fell into place for Rory. But I don't want to harp on, his shortcomings because I do think it was phenomenal. As you mentioned, the way that Justin Rose played in this Masters tournament, and especially the final round where he had 10 birdies, he was 6 under. That 20-foot putt that he hit on the 18th hole to force the playoff was unbelievable. And then as soon as that round finishes, he had the driving range to hit his drivers, hit his irons, do what he has to do because he's banking on Rory having to send that to a playoff, hoping that he doesn't overperform and not need a playoff. It really was a fantastic performance from Justin Rose, but I'm sure there are things that in like you guys mentioned in the middle of the 4 rounds in that round 2, round 3 that really I'm sure he's looking back on that he wishes went differently because he was the leader coming out of the second round. He's 8 under, he's all smiles. And then round 3, that 3 over, it set him back. With the other thing I'm happy you mentioned it, Will. It was interesting as the round went on in round 4, and you're starting to see Rory make you a little concerned. on the back nine. And you mentioned the names that started to come into the mix. Seeing Patrick Reed hole out for eagle from the fairway on hole 17. Now it might have been a little too much too late or too little too late, but there were a lot of guys that sort of this was such an unconventional Masters, I feel like, in the ebbs and flows of everybody's performance. Because I remember watching it with a couple of my friends round four on Sunday and starting to see names enter the leaderboard. We were like, wait, what? Like, are they gonna make this late push? Is this what is the names that we were saying it has to be their tournament this year? Where it's got to be Rose, or going into round four, it's got to be Rose, it's got to be Rory, it's got to be Bryson, and then you start to see names file into the mix because of what's going on in the ebbs and flows of the match. You even saw Scotty Scheffler finishes fourth place, who he in the early parts of the round, we were joking about it. Right before the show got on, I was saying it was quite funny when he had that comedic moment where he shanked a drive and he had to be bent over and like doing weird gymnastics to try to hit the ball out of the woods and struggling with there was like a stake with a mic that they couldn't move and he was going through all this stuff. You saw a lot of ebbs and flows, and I think what ended up happening was it allowed for a lot of names that weren't in that initial like, hey, these are probably going to be our guys in round four, allowed them to move in because they showed up and they did the best they could in round four. It was just such a entertaining tournament outside of what we saw from Rory.
Yeah, and I just at this point, I Justin Rose is so due. Golf is a beautiful game because we have a parallel here in this playoff hole. Rory McIlroy and Justin Rose have both been on the PGA Tour for a long time. Rory obviously with more success at a younger age than Justin Rose maybe, but there was a time when Justin Rose was sort of like a golden boy in the PGA, and obviously he's gotten older as time has gone on, but he has been so competitive at this specific tournament for so long. We mentioned how many times he's finished second. As of this weekend, or last weekend rather, he led round one with that blistering first round, managed to keep his lead after round two, which meant that he is now led or co-led at the end of a round at the Masters 9 times in his career and has never won. So if there's someone who's next on the list in terms of being due at Augusta, it's definitely Justin Rose after Rory McIlroy. And with the way he played this weekend, obviously the middle rounds didn't go great, but he put together a 66 on Sunday to put it to Rory and to make Rory have to make the shots to beat him and not just beat him outright from out shooting him by 12 shots or whatever it was in the middle rounds. So go like looking ahead really briefly to next year's Masters, look at Justin Rose. Justin Rose is going to be back with a vengeance because Rory has had vengeance on his mind for a long time with how many times he's been close and not gotten there. But like Justin Rose, it's a similar situation for him where he was just that close to getting his green jacket, but Rory gets it instead. And like just my one last thought on Justin Rose from this tournament, absolute class act for him to give Rory the stage on in that playoff hole to sort like to have his reaction, let the emotions loose, and then to just go like he dapped him up, he congratulated him, and he cleared out like really quick, really professional, like and just what a great like human being aside from being a great golfer, Justin Rose. Like
Yeah, yeah, he didn't pull a Shooter McGavin. He didn't
no.
he didn't this is my jacket. No. And one of the things I think we have to give some flowers to here that I think a lot of people forget, and I think it's especially true of Justin Rose, somebody who's come so close in the Masters now three times, multiple times, and has still yet to get the job done and get his green jacket. There is an appreciation that should be had for individual athletes, track runners, boxers, race car drivers, golfers, because when you lose, it is strictly your loss. And it's what you could have done better. And it's what the plays you didn't make or whatever, the things that you didn't get done. It's, even you look at the 86 World Series, Bill Buckner lets that ball go through his legs. Guess what? You know what? If a few other, maybe that was his fault in the moment, at least in a team sport, there were plenty of Red Sox in that game there was still a whole game seven to play. Or there was even in that game six, couple less guys strike out, couple less guys get left on base. That's not the tying run or the winning run that he gives up because the ball goes through his legs. You can at least kind of say we win as a team, we lose as a team in team sports. There is such a selflessness and a courage that goes with being an individual athlete where you own your performance fully and there's no other ripple effects. Yes, someone else might, botch a putt, botch a shot, and it's like it allowed you to get into position where you are. But at the same time, it is fully on you to control your own destiny, to control, influence the narratives that surround you. It's true of all of these guys. So I also think it's like it's a for these guys who have been repetitively um, competitive and have, especially like Justin Rose, who, like we've all mentioned, has come close so many times and has yet to sort of finish the job, or Rory, who this is over a decade in the making for him. I think that's an appreciation that needs to be shown. That's true of golf, like I said, true of track, true of racing, true of boxing, whatever, where you're the one man, true of chess. Whoever, you're the one guy out there. You win, it's on you. You lose, it's on you. So I think it's truly I'm a big Rory McIlroy fan, so I'm happy that this happened and I'm happy he won and came out, prosperous here. I wish nothing but the best and a green jacket for Justin Rose. That's what I want to see now.
Would be really, really special. He's been on the tour for a long time now. One more guy I want to talk about before we wrap this Masters talk up, and that's Bryson DeChambeau. And the reason I want to talk about him is because day four rolls around, and there was something that came out, and I thought this was great. Bryson said hello to Rory. Rory walks right past him. I thought it was great. There was big banter back and forth on Twitter saying Rory's classless, this and that. And to that, I say, I don't care. He lost to this guy. Bryson's just being a nice guy here, but Rory is trying to accomplish something that only five people did before him, and he's trying to get the monkey off his back. I loved the back and forth, the dialogue. In my personal opinion, the insane dialogue that some people had about this gesture that Rory had. But aside from that, DeChambeau +3 in round one, and then pulls closer in those second and third rounds. It's a guy that won the U.S. Open multiple times. He's very, very accustomed to the limelight, obviously known for his big drive, but he can win the majors when he needs to, and he can win events in general. But he pulls himself a little bit closer. He shoots 4 under in round two, and then he shoots 3 under in round three, round four. Not his day. He's 3 over. He finishes tied for fifth at 7 under through the 4 rounds. But Bryson DeChambeau, I thought that was a pretty fun little thing going into the day on round 4 between him and Rory.
Oh, for sure. The narrative was there, 100%. I had the feeling before the main broadcast even started that it was PGA versus Live. Even though they've been merged for quite some time now, and we still don't really know what that means, but it's still the PGA versus Live rivalry is very alive, and it's also partial, like somewhat of the YouTube golf generation is getting rolled in there now too, because so many people have picked up the game of golf because of guys like Bryson DeChambeau who have really well done social media and really well done YouTube accounts that like his content is really good. There's no way to like kind of get around that if you're a Bryson hater. His content is good. That's why people watch him, and it's why he's become so popular. So coming into this final round, they had never been paired together before, but it's like PGA's voice against Liv in Rory McIlroy versus Live and YouTube Golf's golden boy in Bryson DeChambeau, and they go head to head at the Masters in the final round. But Bryson DeChambeau kind of couldn't really hang with Rory, because, even though Rory had a rough Sunday, Bryson couldn't even hang with Rory on Sunday, and he wound up tied with Sungjae Im, who was another one of those names that kind of randomly snuck up the leaderboard on Sunday. He eagled 13, I think, to like randomly put himself back in the running. Um, but yeah, like I totally agree with you, Will. That like calling Rory classless for not wanting to talk to Bryson during this round doesn't really make a lot of sense. The man was locked in. If you were trying to win the green jacket to make the career grand slam, would you want to talk to the guy you're paired with? I don't think so. I'd probably want to talk to my caddy and that's it. Like just lock in. And then like obviously locking in didn't exactly help him because he probably got in his own head on a few of those holes. But you know, being the talkative guy didn't really help Bryson either. So yeah, that like, that whole online argument about that interaction has been really really annoying and kind of almost like grasping at straws, if you ask me, like looking for a reason, like a new reason to hate Rory or something. Um, but still, I think we got to give props where it's due once again to a guy like Bryson, who, you know, he's a major championship winner. He's defeated Rory McIlroy in a major before. And he came out to Augusta and put in a really, really solid performance. After last year, he was in the running too for the Masters when Scotty won it. Then he obviously collapsed on Sunday. Bit of the same thing this go around. Um, but still a really strong performances in the first three rounds to put himself into the final pairing on Sunday. And it's no easy task to play golf next to a guy like Rory. Uh, now that he has his Grand Slam, I don't think it's ridiculous to say that playing around with Rory is kind of like playing around with Tiger. Maybe not on Sunday, but the amount of pressure you get from the guy that you're paired with when it's a guy like Tiger or a guy like Rory, it's probably gonna get to you, and I think it got to Bryson a little bit. Still really, really solid performances from him, and I doubt he will be going anywhere anytime soon as well.
I think it's incredibly rich that there was this, in my opinion, incredibly unnecessary social media dialogue. I thought it was beautiful to see that. And then at the end of the round, once Rory wins, to see the next set of discourse about how beautiful of a moment it is at Augusta that people aren't allowed to have their cell phones and that they can take it all in and enjoy it. You could see the reactions from the crowd, and it was this beautiful digital free watching the fans react to the scoreboard numbers, you know, changing in real time and getting to find out that like they're like the cheers when they get to hear, you know, when they find out how a player did on a certain hole. I know that's just a little sidebar. That whole conversation, forgive me if I'm blunt, was so stupid because look, Rory did not backtalk him. He did not flip him the bird. He did not do anything that was, you know, like wrong. He didn't do anything that was disrespectful. It was he didn't say hi back. It was one of those maybe the friendly, social, warm, all the time, loves hugging their friends and all that kind of stuff might like, you know, kind of give it the hairy eye. There's nothing that's when you're between the lines, they're not your friends. And you've seen it in other sports too. Think about the first time Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook faced off after not being teammates anymore. John chirping, all that kind of stuff. You look at the sport of hockey where there's a possibility that you drop the gloves and beat each other up in the middle of a game and you might get traded to that guy's team next year and you're teammates now. There's no friendship there's good sportsmanship, but there's not friendship between the lines of any sport. That's not how this works. That's not how competitors are. That's not how, you know, especially in these winner take all, do or die. We've already mentioned a million times the narrative surrounding Rory heading into this round. I don't think there was anything crazy whatsoever. He's not your friend right now. He's not, maybe he's not your hated enemy that you're throwing darts at a dartboard with a picture of his face on it. Like maybe it's not like that. Maybe it's not like I'll mention him again. Maybe it's not a Shooter McGavin Happy Gilmore situation where it's the house that his grandfather built is on the line, whatever the case may be. But they're not friends. That's not how this works. That's not how the highest level of sports works. So first of all, I just think that dialogue was incredibly unnecessary. And I'm happy that it kind of came and went. Speaking of Bryson DeChambeau, though, he made this tournament fun. He made it fun because you already know he's a golfer with a lot of personality. You know, he's also sometimes kind of a polarizing figure. At times he can be a bit arrogant. At times he can be very passionate. He's definitely a guy that makes the sport a sport that can sometimes be a little quiet or lack some personality at times, can be very old fashioned. He brings a fun to it that I think is incredibly valuable. And you saw some elite performance from him in this tournament. And then you also saw Tucker, as Tucker very perfectly kind of stated, where he couldn't hang with Rory in that final round. I really liked the way that DeChambeau handled the entire thing, especially when he was even talking about Rory not saying hi to him and big leaguing him. He didn't really say it in like a, at least what I took from it and the tone and my interpretation of it, it was not a get a load of this guy. He's a jerk. It was like a yeah, he's locked in. He didn't even say hi to me. Like it was one of those where he I think he handled the situation quite well. I think people got more upset about it than Bryson was. And I also like how he handled defeat too. He had a great quote where he said, "There's a lot to take away from this week, a lot to learn." And then he said, "A lot to be proud of and a lot to be pissed about." I think he, I think that describes his round really well. He had a big bogey problem in that final round. He had a bogey problem really across the entire tournament. He did obviously record 21 birdies, but 12 bogeys as well, including a handful of bogeys, like I said, on that final round. I think it was like the third, the fourth, the 12th, the 17th, the 11th. Like I know he had
Three.
at least five bogeys in the
He
final round.
bogeyed 3 and 4. He doubled 11, and bogeyed 12, and bogeyed 17 in the
Yeah, so he like it's very clear where things went wrong for Bryson, but at the same time, as you very perfectly said, um, he's going to be back. He's going to be a force to be reckoned with. He's young. He brings a fun, twist to the PGA Tour, and I thought it was fun to see the first few rounds where it was close. I do wish Bryson stayed a little closer so that it's the two guys that are playing together are battling neck and neck. I think that would have been really like cinematic. But at the same time, that's how the tournament goes. They're the best of the best, and certain guys had their day on Sunday and certain guys didn't.
Well, last thing I want to bring up because I thought it was very, very cool. Great picture. There's always great photographers at the Masters. You get a lot of very memorable pictures taken there. Rory's on his knees. He's in jubilation. He's extremely happy and emotional. He just won the Masters. And he's like, his head is on the ground, his club's still in his hand. And the picture was taken by Ken Griffey Jr. That was so cool. Ken Griffey
What can't
Jr.,
he do? What
right?
can't Ken
What
Griffey
can't the
Jr.
kid
do?
do, man?
It's amazing stuff. He got paid $3.5 million by the Cincinnati Reds last year. How about that? Still getting paid too.
That's
And
the
he's a
thing. One of
credentialed
the funny like
photographer.
headlines I saw was, I think ESPN posted it. It was like Ken Griffey Jr. is the highest paid photographer at the Masters,
Yeah,
making 2.5 mil, and he's not even getting paid to be a photographer.
yeah, it's crazy, man. But he was a credentialed photographer at the Masters this past year. It's very, very cool to see an iconic picture. It's been all over the place now, and not only because it was Ken Griffey, but it was also a very well taken picture, and
It was
it
beautiful.
encapsulated the moment. It just so happened to be taken by Ken Griffey Jr. A little side thing there. That very, very cool stuff. But I think that's just about going to do it here for our 89th Masters recap. Rory McIlroy on top of the golfing world. He eclipses the ultimate title of owning a Grand Slam championship, of winning all four big majors throughout your career, becoming just the sixth individual to do so in the PGA. Incredible stuff, winning his first ever Masters. But that's going to do it for Jack Warner and Tucker Austin. I'm Will Tallant. This has been On the Green, a production of WFUV Sports.
Go hit the links, y'all.